hi.
Yeah, look.
What do you mean no?
Look.
Delicious. Say hi.
Hey, look.
Aww. Mwah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Welcome back to Permission Granted, where you have the permission granted to speak openly and honestly without the fear of judgment. Openly and honestly about any and everything without the fear of judgment. My name is Darrell. I'm joined here by
Jessica, co-host.
She's our co-host, and we have a very, very, very special guest here today. It's no secret, that I've mentioned that I've been to rehab. And in rehab, I had the most wonderful therapist who definitely played a part in saving my life. And he is here today, and his name is
David.
Hi, David.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I was speaking to Jessica before, and I was like, what would be a good idea if I had David on the show?
Right.
Because I just call you my therapist. Like, to this day, I call you my therapist. That's how I refer to you.
Yeah.
And I speak about you a lot, and I quote you, and, I get preachy or whatever, and it's all because of you. So I just wanted to put a face to the name. Because I didn't say your name on camera before, but I wanted to put a face to the therapist. Mm-hmm. So we invited you here today.
Yes.
Yes. Now, before we get to
anything,
David and his story and how he became a lifesaver for me and so many other people, we just have to talk about the journey it took to get here today. So, Jessica, go ahead.
Today was not Darrell's day.
Yeah.
Like, I had a pretty good day.
Yeah.
But,
It was good
when
until
did it start?
after work.
I mean, we saw each other this morning at like 6:00 in the morning.
Yeah, we drove to work today
And
together.
then-
Same
and then
car
we
as we
worked.
call it.
And then we did compliance training.
Yes.
And then just as soon as we were clocked out, it just all started going downhill from there.
Yes.
What happened first?
Well, it was the car. The car was overheating.
Mm-hmm.
And I have PTSD when it comes to my vehicles, because previous Mariah, that's what I call my car. And any car that I own will be named Mariah.
After Mariah Carey.
Exactly.
That's right.
So, oh yes, you remember. I loved Mariah Carey. Yes, everyone that meets me, even in rehab, knew that I loved Mariah Carey. I love her. But anyway, yeah, so I saw that the temperature was going up and it wasn't coming down. Mm-hmm. So I'm freaking out. Jessica is calm as a cucumber on her phone, and I'm like ready to lose, my stuff. And it turned out that it was just I needed antifreeze. So so it was that, and then we almost wasn't able to record today because we couldn't get into the room. But obviously we did. We got the antifreeze, and now we're here.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I have a gift for you. I wanted to get it out of the way before we got into anything, because how funny would it be if we were like,
Well, what?
Oh, so I got it because
Yes.
it popped up on TikTok, and I was like, oh, let me just get it for Darrell because like I love you and stuff.
Yeah.
It's nothing crazy. It's not gonna make you cry, but I saw it and I thought of you.
Yeah. Before I open this gift, I have to say, Sabrina, I love you and I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what is this? Well, it's obviously a piece of clothing.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Read it.
It says, I know they say the end is near, but I'm still on my tallest tiptoes, spinning in my highest heels, love shining just for you.
And what is that from?
I don't know.
It's a Taylor Swift song.
What song is this?
I don't know what it's called.
Oh my God. It must be from Folklore or Evermore.
I'm pretty sure it's Folklore. I saw
Yeah.
it on TikTok and I was like, oh, that's nice.
I love this. Thank you. And it's black.
I saw it in pink and I was like, dang, they should have it in black.
Thank you, Jessica.
And I found one.
Aw,
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, that's
Is it
very
the shot,
nice.
Marlon? He doesn't know.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Oh, I love you.
Thank you. I love you too.
Okay.
Aw.
No, Jessica gets weird with saying I love you. It's annoying.
We'll get to my trauma soon.
Oh my God. So, like, we're not going to rehash, the whole my story and how it led me to rehab and how it led me to meeting you, but I will repeat one thing and then we'll get into your story. I spoke on the last episode about how you told me that my mother did the best that she could, and it wasn't until you said that it clicked that she did the best that she could and within the circumstances that she was in. And you saying that changed my life. How many words is that? She did the best that she could. 7 words saved my life, or helped save my life. So I thank you for that. I really do. Like I said before, going to rehab was the greatest decision I have ever made in my life, and it was. And I got to meet you, and now you're here. So let's get into David Foster. Tell us about yourself.
Do we have enough time? I'm just kidding.
That's what I said.
You did.
I'm just kidding. Well, let me just, give you my thinking behind why I said that to you, because, we can look back at our histories and blame or point the finger at people and say, if I didn't have this type of person in my life, or
good for that.
this type of parent in my life, et cetera, that, my life wouldn't be what it is. I had a pretty rough beginning too. My father was an alcoholic. He was a raging madman. Always created a lot of tension and anxiety in the house. I saw him brutalize my mother. He brutalized me physically and emotionally. He brutalized my younger brother. So, coming from that backdrop, it was very easy to kind of, say like, well, I had a terrible upbringing and this and that. And, that was certainly a reason for the way my life, the trajectory of my life went.
Yeah.
But, looking back at all that now, I can say that my father had his own demons. He had his own problems. He had his own issues. And his upbringing wasn't that great, and I don't know if this is something that you guys have talked about, but, this disease is generational.
Yes.
It takes...
Generational trauma, yeah.
Yeah, it's generational trauma. And, as I've grown in my practice and in my, knowledge base, I understand that, the trauma can continually be passed on.
Yeah, I refuse.
It doesn't go away just because...
It could turn into something else.
That's correct.
Yeah.
It becomes, more toxic, more harmful. Just the toxicity of being a black person in this country even has a traumatic, impact on people.
Yeah.
So if you have that and you also have a family who is, dysfunctional in whatever ways they're dysfunctional, and that comes in a huge umbrella. We definitely don't have time to talk about all that, but
Yeah.
But certainly, those are reasons why, we choose some of the paths that we choose and choose the people that we choose in our lives, and the people who come into our lives, we respond and react to them in ways that are reminiscent of how we responded early on.
Yeah.
So the tension, the anxiety, the fear, all of that stuff that I felt as a child, I carried that into adulthood.
Sure did. I hid it well, but it was there. It was
Right.
definitely there.
I often tell people, I was very afraid of people. Very afraid of people. It might not seem that way because of the person that I am. I'm very gregarious, outgoing. I can definitely work a room, all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But that that still doesn't take away that inner child that still feels frightened sometimes and uncertain and
Cautious.
cautious.
Extremely cautious. cautious,
I think-
judgmental.
I think the biggest thing, at least for me, is the feeling of always being inadequate in some way.
Hmm.
And that's a tough feeling to kind of move past.
Okay.
So anyway, you asked me about my life, and I'm going to encapsulate this as best as I can, right? So I grew up in the projects. I grew up, the firstborn of two immigrant parents. Actually, not the firstborn, but the firstborn of those two people. I had a rough childhood, a lot of fighting, a lot of, trying to fit in because I was a fairly bright child.
Yes.
And I was thrust into a neighborhood that was mixed, predominantly white in the beginning. And it was hard for me to kind of fit in. I didn't fit in quite with the white children, and I didn't fit in with the black kids either because
you were smart.
Because I was smart.
Yeah, tell me about it.
So I had to dumb down a lot, and that was confusing.
Well, I never did that. I refused that, but this is your story.
So anyway, naturally I gravitated to the bad kids because those are the ones that I fit in with, and drugs became a staple. I experimented young. I experimented a lot. Fast forward, I ended up getting married at a very young age, having 2 children by the time I was 20. And I was, caught up in that whole mess of, being a father, being a child and being a father at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's hard.
Of course, yes.
And, my father passed away when I was 14, so I didn't really have any male figure in my life. So I looked for male figures wherever I could, and that turned out to be in the streets. Moving even faster, that first marriage didn't work out. I ended up divorcing and moving out on my own, and then my drug use skyrocketed. I took off in all kinds of directions. I was working in an environment where it was all adults and I was still a kid, but they were all my role models. And so I learned very early on how to drive, how to drink, how to talk to women, how to, do all these things that men do, but I was still, basically a kid, teenager. So from 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, something, all those years, that's what my environment was all about. But anyway, I, got into the drug game. I started selling drugs. I started becoming, very promiscuous. All of those things were happening. And then the crack era showed up.
Good old 80s, yeah.
Yeah. And, I met this one woman who introduced me to smoking crack, and it was off to the races from there.
You told me this story in your office.
Yes.
Yeah.
I got introduced to it. I thought it was, the best thing that ever happened to me, and it turned out to be the worst thing that ever happened to me because for the next 30 years, I couldn't break away from that drug use.
Wow. 30 years.
30 years, yes. And just, to kind of tell you how bad that journey was, I had ended up getting a job where I was, making great money. I was an elevator mechanic in the city of New York.
I remember.
And I worked there for 23 years, but my career was a mess because I couldn't stay clean. There were periods, yes. I think the first time I was clean for about 17 months. I relapsed. I stayed clean for another 3 months. It was just rocky. And then I ended up losing my job. I was terminated, and my drug use even got worse.
Yes, yeah. Of course.
And
escalates.
that all ended up with me in going to prison for 5 years because my behavior just became totally sociopathic at that point. I was stealing, robbing, doing all kinds of things, and it was all a result of my drug use, but nonetheless, the judicial system, they see it as, you know what, you committed a crime. You gotta
Yeah.
go, you have to pay for your crime. So I ended up going to prison. I came out. I was clean for, I don't know, another 6 years, and then it all happened all over again, and it just snowballed all over again. It's interesting, right? Because I always look back at that period of time, and everything that I was doing in that period of time was good. I was going to school, I was going to gym, I was going to work, I was doing meetings, I was doing everything was good, but something just was missing, I guess. It's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah.
And I ended up, going back into that whole cycle of drug use and poor decisions and, all this nonsense that happened
Yeah.
until somewhere in 2008, things really started to take a really serious turn. I started to get sick, physically sick. And by the beginning of 2009, I was hospitalized because I had gotten a terrible infection because of my promiscuity and my drug use. I don't want to go into detail about that, but I woke up on March 17th of 2009, St. Patty's Day, and I just looked at myself in the mirror and I said, you know what, enough.
That's so interesting.
Enough. I told myself I'm better than this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm certainly capable of so much more.
Yes.
And I decided that, you know what, I have to try. I can't just give up. Because at that point, I was ready to give up. And I have to give a shout out to a couple of people.
Absolutely.
My sponsor, who never gave up.
Even when you did.
Even when I was near dead. The man called me during my last run. He called me every week for 2 years. And sometimes he would say, David, I love you. I miss you. I wish you would come back. And sometimes he would call and he would say, David, I don't know what you're doing, but if you're getting high right now, I hope I'm effing you high up right now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah.
And it was interesting, because I never picked up the phone. He never heard my voice, but
That's all too familiar.
He would continue to call. And there were other people along the way who just never gave up.
Yeah.
And so, going back to that day, I made that decision, but I was very sick. I spent the next 3 months bedridden because I was that ill.
Wow.
And I didn't go to rehab. I didn't do any of those things. I just said to myself, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to stop using, and I'm going to get myself back together. Now, through all of this, and I didn't mention this, through all of this, I was in and out of schools. I started my school career.
Yes, you told me.
I started my school career in 1977. I thought I was going to be an electrical engineer. I hated math, so that didn't work.
Yeah.
When I was locked up, I was in school for a period of time, and I started to study psychology and things of that nature. So I started to develop an interest, but I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do. When I came out of prison, I went back to my elevator job, and they had tuition reimbursement. So I decided, okay, let's go back to school. So I went to NYU. I was in NYU for, I don't know, a year and a half. I was an honor student. I was killing it.
Yeah.
Still didn't know what I wanted to do. But then, as I said, I relapsed and lost my job. So tuition reimbursement went out the window. And so there I was again. When I did finally get right to ship, so to speak, I decided to go to Thomas Edison State College and get my bachelor's degree through distance learning. And that worked out pretty well. So I ended up graduating from there. And then I met this woman. Well, I'd met her when I went to Thomas Edison. I met this woman. I got to give her a shout out too. She was my academic advisor. And when I had graduated from Thomas Edison, I said to her, I graduated, I'm going to take a break. I'm just going to go to work and do whatever. Her name was Celeste Wynn. And she said to me, no, you're not. What you're going to do is you're going to send letters to several schools and you're going to apply for your master's program.
Period. Yes.
She said, no, you're not going to stop. You got too much in you
Yes.
to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And so I listened. I took her advice and I applied to several schools, and Rutgers accepted me right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to go to Rutgers. And she also advised me that I didn't need to do distance learning anymore. She said, go back to the classroom, which was a good decision. It really was, because I started to sort of, embrace that, the going to class and all these young, I felt very weird. I was, with all these young people, and here I am, this 50-year-old man going back to school, and it was very, very, like.
It's lovely. I love it.
Yeah. But, and it's funny, when I was going to school, I always thought, my age and all of that was going to be a disadvantage.
Yeah, you're bringing me back to sitting in your office with you right here, and I'm sitting here like it's.
But
yeah.
it's true. I wasn't making any of that up.
No.
It's the truth. I
So
remember
your age
sitting.
can be an advantage.
I really
Yeah.
remember sitting in the auditorium with 500 students, and they were all like in their teens and 20s, and I'm sitting there saying to myself, "What the hell am I doing here? Am I going to be able to do this?"
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I walked up to the dean. She was standing at the podium, and I said to her, I feel like I'm the oldest fart in the room. And she said, how old are you? And I told
Never
her.
the oldest person in
And
the
she
class.
said, no, there's a couple people here a little older than you.
Right? Did I tell you that? You are never the oldest person in the classroom, ever.
I graduated with a woman. She was 66 when she graduated.
Good for her.
Yeah, she was a grandmother.
Yeah.
But anyway, I really thought that was going to be a disadvantage, but it turned out to be one of my greatest strengths. Because I not only had the education, but
The
I
experience.
had the life experience, which was tremendous. Mm-hmm. So anyway, trying to decide where I want to pick up the story at. I did the 4 years at Rutgers, and during that time, my sponsor, he had developed his own practice, a practice that I still work at today, and I want to give them a shout out too. It's called Breath of Life. It's where I do my own private practice now. We have two offices, one in Highland Park and one in Somerset, New Jersey. So if anybody is in that area and they need a therapist, certainly you can look me up. I'm in Psychology Today.
Yes, you are.
But I still didn't quite know what I wanted to do. And my sponsor, as I said, he's into the field. He's a therapist. He's a social worker. And he said to me, why not do social work?
Yeah.
Why not become a therapist? And, I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And so I went into the School of Social Work. At the time, they had an accelerated program. I did that. It was called ACT program. So I did that. I graduated in 2015, and I got to tell this part of the story because this is the part of the story that really grabs at my heartstrings. So the whole time I was going to school, my mother was in her 80s. And I was saying to myself, you know what? I want to finish this. I want her to see me graduate.
Same.
I just want her to see me graduate. I want her to see that I'm going to be okay. And so graduation came, and it happened to be the 250th anniversary of commencement at Rutgers. Barack Obama was my commencement speaker.
Are you serious?
Yes.
What?
Barack
Wow.
Obama was my commencement speaker. And so my brother, my son and my mom and my wife came to the graduation. My mom was 91. And I was sitting next to her on the bus, and she looked at me and she said, I didn't think I'd ever live to be a part of something like this.
Wow.
And like, wow, I think at that moment I really realized the enormity of what I had done.
Yes. Yes.
I really, I couldn't have scripted that any better. She saw her son graduate, she saw Barack Obama speak, and she was present for all of that. So the graduation in itself was great, but that moment was
The icing on the cake.
was the greatest. So so I graduated, and during that time, I ended up working in this agency, Breath of Life. One of the clinicians there passed away suddenly, and my sponsor asked me if I could fill in, and it was like, a hand meeting a glove. I fell right in. I started doing IDRC work. I started seeing patients for assessments. I started doing some of that work. And then I started to develop my skills. I started to become, I started out as an addictions counselor because that was my, sort of niche. But I realized that, I needed to broaden my scope, so I started to do a lot of other things. I counsel people with depression, anxiety, PTSD, anger management, all kinds of things I started to do. I graduated. I got licensed right away in the state of New Jersey, and I've just been growing ever since. It's just been an amazing journey, and a lot of other things happened along the way. Like I left a marriage of 23 years because I realized how toxic that marriage was, and I needed to get out of it. And so I did that, and I kind of isolated myself for a couple of years because I realized that I was hurt in a lot of ways, and hurt people, so I didn't want to be in anybody else's life to hurt them. So I made that decision, and 2.5 years went by, and this woman just appeared out of nowhere, and it was like a fairy tale. I didn't see her coming. I almost walked by it because I really wasn't thinking about getting involved with anybody, but it happened, and we met, and we got married, and so I'm with that woman today, and she's like a rock for me. She really is. I don't know what else. I went and worked at several different places. I worked at a methadone clinic for a while. Then I ended up working in a what they call trying to think. I went to work for a place called Damon House, which is a
Is that a halfway house?
It's not a halfway house. It's more like a therapeutic community. Couldn't think of it. It's a therapeutic community. It was a 6-month program, and I learned a lot there. I really did. I started to really work with people closely, and I had time to really work with folks and learn a lot about what my strengths and weaknesses were, and that sort of thing. I left there, and I went to work for the agency that I work for now, which is RCA, which is a really tremendous agency. This is where I met Jarrell,
Yes.
as he mentioned.
Very grateful for us.
I was a little trepidatious about going to work for them because I've been working for nonprofit for so long that I was kind of used to that laid back sort of atmosphere. RCA is a little
They're
faster.
definitely for profit. Yes.
Yeah, definitely for profit and a lot faster paced.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was a little trepidatious about it, but I went there. I met some really great people there. Typically, I don't work well with women.
Listen, man. I'm just one of the guys. I'm just one of the guys here.
You said that several times in our group sessions.
My
yeah.
history says it. I don't work well with women, but I work under 3 women
Yes, you do.
right now.
Wait, 3? I thought it was 1.
No, I work under 3 women, 2 supervisors, and a clinical director.
Yes.
And all 3 of them are the greatest women that I could have ever met, because they're nothing but supportive and loving and caring, and the culture there is great. And so now I work with young adult males.
Yes, yams.
Yeah, we call them yams.
Call them yams. Yeah, I was
Sweet
yam of
potatoes.
the week before. Yes.
The sweet potatoes.
Yes.
And I've been working there now for close to 3 years and developing my private practice.
Yes.
So I guess the way to sort of encapsulate all of this is to say, like, when you're at your lowest, when you really are struggling, when things look really bleak, if you can just stop for a moment and just realize where you are and realize what you really want to do, what you really, what's your purpose?
Mm-hmm.
What's your purpose?
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure that out, what my purpose is. I believe that what I do today is what I was meant to do.
Yeah.
I really, I love what I do. I don't really find it labor intensive.
That's good.
I don't like paperwork, but whatever. But I love talking to people. I love the feeling that I'm helping people.
Yeah.
The feeling that I'm giving back what was given to me. And that, I don't know, it just gratifies me. It makes me feel like I'm purposeful, like I'm doing something to help. I was a blight in the neighborhood. I was I wasn't an asset. I was a deficit.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm definitely an asset. And so I'm grateful, man. I am, and I remain grateful, not just because of that and because of the things that obviously I make good money and I can afford to have a great lifestyle, but I'm more grateful for the fact that I've become a better person.
Mm-hmm.
I've become a person who's caring, empathetic, who is tolerant, patient, non-judgmental. Thank you for that plug. Non-judgmental. I don't harbor biases. I don't, I just want to live and let live.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my story. There's a lot of gaps in all of that, but
That's okay. That's okay. I mean, I don't know, how do we follow that up?
My resume is not quite as long.
No, I identify, of course, with so much of what you said. I've learned in therapy and NA and stuff, your story is never just your story. So I identify with a lot. I'm just very proud to look at you and see, that it's possible. That you can go from wanting it all to end and definitely trying to end it to be,
I was suicidal at one point.
Yeah. Same. And it's not even like actively. What am I trying to say? It's not even. Well, I mean, if you're using drugs, you are actively trying to kill yourself. But yeah. So what I'm trying to say, it's not even like putting a gun to your head. But I was suicidal every time I would get high. You're playing Russian roulette. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Well, I was at one point one day really contemplating it.
Same. I mean,
I was contemplating suicide, and
yeah.
God sent me an angel.
Yeah.
Amen.
I got a phone call, and for some reason I answered that call, and the guy, he asked me what I was doing, and I told him I was honest, and he talked me off the ledge.
Wow. Well, that's what you mentioned St. Patrick's Day. And I was like, that's very interesting because mine was Memorial Day, 2021. Because, of course, you probably don't remember the exact date, but I entered RCA June 3rd. Because I called, I was in a motel room by myself, locked away with my demons, as I say. And it was Memorial Day, 2021. And I realized that I couldn't live like the way I was living anymore. And I realized that it was going to be horrible, like every single time, even though it was horrible. In that moment, it finally clicked, like, Darrell, this is what it is. And it's going to be like this every single time. And I just couldn't do it anymore. And, that was Memorial Day, June 2021, and June 3rd, 2021, I was in RCA. But yeah, about the trying to kill yourself thing, April 2021, I'm in the motel room, and I was trying to stop my heart. Yeah. But I had a panic attack before that happened, and that didn't happen. God had other plans. I thought, this was my plan, but God said, no, it's not your time yet. But it's so wonderful to come from that place, to sitting here, just like you said, grateful to just not be there.
It's funny, right? Like, I think to myself, like, could I go back and change all of that? If I had the opportunity, could I do it? But I don't know that if I changed all of that, that I would be the person that I am right now.
No, I don't think I would. I mean, most of the horrible things that I've done would be things that I've said and how I've treated people. And I've learned in NA, because I learned to not say I never did this, the whole stealing or the selling of your body and stuff like that. I learned to say I didn't get to that place, not that I never did it. So I didn't get to that place, but I mean, I'm still an addict. You're not better or anything. So the horrible things that I did was basically mostly how I talked to my mom. Because for whatever reason, my friends, I still treated them how they should have been treated, which is, I'm not going to say odd, but I don't
It's
know.
not odd at all. The closest get the mostest.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And, but as far as like being the same person, when you come out of active addiction, you realize how strong you actually are. And one of the things I think about is the fact that I always think, why me? Not like a woe is me, like pity thing, but just why? Why me? The whole generational thing. It was grandma, then my mother, and my mom had 3 sons. Why me? But I
Because
think,
trauma is inherent to the individual.
What does that mean?
Well, we could all experience a traumatic event.
Mm-hmm.
And all 3 of us can interpret it and process it
In a
differently.
different way.
And the trauma is not the event. That's traumatic.
Yeah.
The trauma is in here.
Wow.
That's where the trauma is.
Yeah.
How did I perceive all of that? How did I see all of that? How did it make me feel? How did it make me respond to other people? How did it make me live my life?
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
where the trauma is.
That is brilliant. Oh my God. Because when you say, I'm thinking about me and my brothers and how different we are, and I am the one that feels everything and takes everything in and internalizes it. Okay. Wow. Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's not about the event. It's about how I process it and how I deal with it. And how do I relive it over and over again?
It's funny that you say that. We learn it's not just about giving up the drug. There's a whole bunch of other stuff we have to work on.
That's the easy part.
Yeah, giving up the drug is the easy part. Yes. And I, at the top of this, I apologize to a friend of mine because I fall into these behaviors that are not, they're not, what am I trying to say? They're not, indicative of how you may feel about someone or a situation. And so I'm still working on all of those things. Yeah.
If you look up and I hope I don't butcher this. If you look up the definition, the SAMHSA definition of recovery, and don't ask me what the acronym SAMHSA stands for, 'cause
Yeah.
I probably messed that up. But anyway, you can look it up. The definition of recovery is a process of, I'm going to mess it up. Give me a sec.
Mm-hmm.
It's a process. Give me a minute. I got to think about it again.
It'll come to you. SAMHSA. I've never heard of SAMHSA. Have you, Jessica?
It's
know who
an
that
organization. It's a. I should know it. I'm terrible. It's terrible that I don't
No, it's
know.
fine.
Anyway, go on, and I will.
Well,
repeat
I
it.
wanted because Jessica's very quiet.
I'm soaking it all in.
Yeah, no, I know. But I wanted. How do you? Because you said before, you know, your view. I think you might have said it today. We've talked about it several times. You know, your view of addicts and addiction has changed since you met
Oh
me.
yes.
Yeah, so talk about that a bit.
So it's not a lie. There's a stigma around addiction, well, addicts specifically rather than addiction itself. And shamefully, I was part of the people that viewed it as a stigma because I had no idea what it was like, how traumatic it is, how people, perceive trauma of being, caught in addiction.
Well, hopefully you never will understand it because you will never.
I don't want to.
You will never.
And
Only
that's
an
another
addict
point.
understands an addict. Like you know me. Like you're my best friend. Like sometimes I told you, like my mind, like how I'm always like obsessing. You will never understand that because, and it's a good thing.
And that's another loophole into a conversation too,
Yeah.
where I've expressed that I've never wanted to because I'm afraid. There's a true
And stay
fear.
afraid of drugs. Absolutely.
There's always been a fear of drugs.
Good.
Because there's a family history, and I've had one of my cousins who is a sponsor, which I don't think I've ever told you that.
No, you didn't, no.
She was heavily addicted to drugs. Still an addict, but
Yes. We're always an addict. Yes.
and I'm not exactly sure how she had found herself within where she is in her life now. I would have to call her and ask her, but she moved down to Florida and she's a sponsor there now.
Good
And
for
she's been
her.
doing that for 30 years or something.
wow.
Yeah. But no, my perception changed once I met Darrell and we didn't start getting into this conversation because I had asked him where he lived, and he was in a house.
Yeah.
And then he explained the whole living
Oh
situation.
yes.
And I was like, so you own a house and you have roommates. How much more complicated could it be?
Yes.
And that's when we got into the entire conversation of okay, so I'm an addict, and then and I remember, and it was a very slow process to get me to really understand addiction.
which is fine. Yeah.
Because again, I was just my head was wrapped around this whole idea
of people nodding out on the street and stealing from stores and stuff like that.
North Penn Station, man,
Yeah.
just a mile from my house. I was there every single day. I've only ever seen it look one way.
And I remember saying to you, I've been in meetings with doctors and lawyers, police officers. Your favorite, your doctor can be an addict.
Right.
Your favorite barista at Starbucks can be an addict. You don't know. So that's one of the things that irritates
Addiction
me.
doesn't discriminate.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that irritates me about the stigma, because the person, again, you go to your doctor, you love your doctor. Your doctor your appointment could be after they're in a meeting. You just don't know. But I mean, that it's fair. And
Addiction doesn't discriminate between socioeconomic class, color. Doesn't discriminate. You could be rich and
Yes.
be horribly addicted, or you could be the poorest person and be horribly addicted.
Yeah.
Also, the addiction doesn't exist in the pill, drug, or bottle. The addiction exists between your ears.
it's all up here. Yes,
The
it is.
addiction is still very much right here,
Yes.
sitting here.
And I wanted to speak on something else that you said that I've mentioned in the past, the previous episode. How you told me that I will never feel as good as I felt when I was high, and you told me that I would have to resign to other things, like just other pleasures in life. And you said they are never going to feel like you being high, but that you just have to deal with that.
Right.
And I speak about that all the time, because nothing feels like being high. But I know that feeling is a lie, and it's fleeting, and it's going to go away. But a whole bunch of other mess comes with that feeling.
Right.
So,
So I wanted to say this, right?
yes.
The definition, according to Shamsha, is a process of change through which individuals improve their health and wellness, live a self-directed life, and strive to reach their full potential.
Yeah.
That's the definition. So what is health and wellness?
What is health and wellness? I mean, Jessica can speak to that more than me. We're both on. No. I'm making a point. We're both on. You'll see what I'm trying to say. You are taking no, because you are taking.
What are we talking about?
You are taking more steps regarding your health than I am at this point. But you said, what is health and wellness? I would assume that it's
That's a big umbrella.
health and wellness. I guess. Okay. Because health, I'm thinking of being in shape and stuff, but then we're
Physical
thinking
health.
about mental health and spiritual health and all.
Correct.
So it's like very broad.
That's correct.
Okay.
It's not just about my physical health.
Yeah.
It's about my mental health. It's about my emotional health. It's about my spiritual well-being.
That's a lifelong thingy, though.
Yeah, that's what health and wellness really talks about, right? When you look at a pie chart that talks about self-care, there's, 6 or 7 different areas, right?
Yeah.
I need to take care of my psychological well-being, my emotional well-being, my professional well-being, my personal well-being.
Jeez, I never thought about professional well-being.
Right. Well, I
But
There's
that's
so
part
much
of
I have
it.
to do. Oh my god.
That's part of it.
yeah.
That's a big part of it.
Yeah.
And living a self-directed life, right? Like, what does that mean? Certainly, when Darrell and I were out there using drugs, our lives weren't self-directed. They were being directed by a substance, by a disease.
Yeah.
I wasn't free. I'm
No.
free now.
I am single
Aw,
sex.
I love you guys.
No,
Aw, I love
no,
it.
free is a good word. Yeah. Like the things you missed out on. Like we'll go out. I'm a very emotional person, and like at the end of the night, like she's dropping me off or I'm dropping her off, and I'll have a moment, and I will cry. I'm a crybaby, and I'll be like, no, I really am. Like just like thanking her because simple things I didn't do. Going to the movies, going out to eat. I didn't do those things on my free time when I
We
was
went to
using.
hibachi recently.
Yes, because I was using. So I wasn't enjoying the simple pleasures of life. So when I'm like, I really take the moments in, whatever they may be. And it's free. I'm free. I'm free from,
You know what's interesting, right?
drugs.
When I was locked up
Right.
for all those years,
Yes.
I felt freer in there than I did when I was on the streets.
I think that's the same feeling in rehab because you're safe. Well, rehab is much safer than being locked up. But because you're safe from you and what you would be doing. Yeah. Yeah.
That's some people would not understand that statement, but I actually felt free when I was in prison.
Yeah.
They had my body, but they didn't have my emotional
Yeah.
or my mental state or my spirit.
I can't imagine what that was like. What was that like? Because I thank God because he saved me from homelessness. That was something I didn't worry about. And I have to thank my mother for that. Because when I lost my place, I knew that I would have somewhere to go. And prison. Like, when I would go pick up my drugs and be driving with my drugs, and I've driven high a few times. I don't think I've ever told anybody that before. But God saved me from the bars. And I thank him because I think he knew I'm not built for that. But what is that like?
I think the biggest thing about being locked up is the waste of time. Because your life gets put on hold. It's like you're not in the mainstream. You're being told when you can eat, when you can go out, when you can shower, when you can, all these different things. And so your life is being, again, you're not self-directed, you're being directed by, some other individual or individuals, but your life is on hold. I walked in there and my son was 2. I came back, he was 7. And he didn't know who I was. And I missed all of that time. And I'll never get that time back. Never.
Neither will he.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that was the biggest thing about it, or I guess the most detrimental thing about it. The loss of time. You're right. I think I was safe for myself in there. I wasn't able to go out and commit crime. I wasn't able to use, although I could have, but I chose not to because there was drugs in there as well.
Not at RCA.
So that part of it, yes, I was protected from me, but I didn't learn anything in there. To help me, so to speak, in terms of becoming a better person or being in recovery. I didn't learn any of that in there. All I learned to do was count days. That's all I learned to do. But again, I still, found freedom in all of that. I got involved in the church. I went to meetings in there as well, but it's just like a dead space, and
I can only imagine.
I wasn't too worried about, being accosted or, some of the horror stories that you hear. I really wasn't too worried about any of that because, I'm a fairly big guy and, most people are going to look at me and they'll say, I don't know if I want to try him, but, but I wasn't a tough guy or anything like that. I just kind of minded my business and did my thing and got out of there.
I cannot imagine.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I wouldn't do well in prison.
Well, everybody says that. I mean, I think I even said that. I said I wasn't built for prison, but
I'm just afraid.
if you go,
People have a way of adapting.
You got to do what you have to do,
Oh my God.
that's it.
I lead my life with fear. So I've steered clear of everything guiding me down that path because I've always been so afraid.
Well, I think the healthy fear of drugs you have is great. Keep it. And you know what? It's funny that you said that because now I don't fear drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I love drugs.
Right.
But I can't use drugs.
I fear
You know?
addiction.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I think I think there is like a secondhand fear. There was a scare one time, do you remember? Where so it was like Sunday or something. I was doing laundry and I go to the laundromat close to where he lives. And I know that he has a meeting at 9 a.m. on Sunday. So I get to the laundromat at like 8. I text him, he's not awake. 9 o'clock rolls around. Like, I know he's up. He's doing the meeting. He didn't answer me. Like 3. And I'm like, let me just give him some time. I go to the store. Go to my car. I sit there. Maybe like 2-3 hours go by. And I'm like, why isn't he answering me? And at that point, like, I'm like almost sobbing.
She
I'm like,
convinced
where
herself.
is he? Like,
Yeah.
he's not answering me. Like, this is not like him. Like, he doesn't sleep this late. Like, I know he sleeps a lot, but never
sleep.
sleeping in. Like, and so I drove to his house. Because I was like, I know he's home if his car is there. Because because he doesn't go anywhere without his car. He would never walk anywhere.
Yeah.
So I drove to his house and I made sure that his car was there. And you don't understand the weight lifted off of my shoulder. Like, and I just sat there. I looked at Mariah and I just cried. I was like, oh, thank God. Oh my God, because I again, there's this new fear, like it's a fear that had always been there of myself becoming addicted to drugs, but a new fear developed of my best friend falling back into that cycle. Like I don't want that to happen. I'm gonna cry. Oh my God. And yeah, so it's just like, like you had touched on it the last episode where your mother had to forgive you about the
Absolutely.
whole, like the entire journey. There's a whole lot of other people that have to forgive you if you mess
Oh
up like
yes,
that.
absolutely. I think about that because coming out of the misery, as I call it, there are people I don't want to let down. Myself, included. Co-workers and friends, family members. That would be tough to come this far. I mean, next June 1st, I forget when June 1st is, but that's 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years. And God willing, I'll see, the 2 years. We don't count our chickens before they hatch.
Part of the recovery process too is like there's a lot of things in front of me now.
Yes, outside of the people.
There's a lot of things in front of me, like
my degrees and
well, yeah, there's that, there's my professional life.
yeah.
There's my wife. There's my children.
Yes.
They
My
don't
nephew.
live with me, but my son is in recovery. My middle son, he's in recovery, and he's got a little over 18 months
Good
clean
for
now
him.
at this point. And he said to me one day, just before he got his year, he said, "Dad, you know how I ended up getting clean and getting into recovery?" And I said, "No, how did you end up?" He said, "I saw you. I watched you." He said, "I saw you at your worst.
Yes.
At your worst. And now look at you.
I love that.
You totally turned your life around." And I looked at you and I said, if he could do that, I could do
Broken heart.
that.
I will share a little story about that. I obviously witnessed my mother in her addiction. But when she got clean in 2004, she got clean in 2004. Fast forward to 2011. I mentioned in the previous episode, me, her, and my brother used to work at Keene University. And I remember watching her. I was standing there and I was watching her working. And I had a conversation with my ex back then. This was 2011, talking
Just
about
something.
how far. Yeah, his name is Just Something. Talking about
Are you crying?
no, just a little,
Just being silly goofy.
a little teary. No, no, my left eye was tearing
It's
a little bit.
okay.
No, but I remember watching her working, and I made the connection of like how far she's come. Now, during that time, I still resented my mother, and this was before my addiction. But I just wanted to identify with your son. Like I did, I have those memories of, thinking
she was like.
exactly what she was
And
like
what
and how
she's
far
like
she's
now.
come. Yeah. And yeah, I love my mother. We're not going to get into her.
So
Remember how much I talked
So-
about my mother in there?
I want to go back to that definition, right?
Yeah.
Because the last part of that definition says, strive to reach our full potential.
Yes.
What's my full potential?
Only God knows.
Yeah. I don't know what my full potential is. I'm still trying to figure that out.
So I have a question.
Yes.
To go, based on your personal experience and what your son had told you. If the reason for him, his reason to recover, was seeing you at your worst, why wasn't that enough to not start?
Can I speak on that first
Good
and then you
question.
give the professional answer? To not start. Because the whole I don't know if this particularly answers your question, but the whole we learn from people's mistakes is BS.
Okay.
In my opinion, you have to make your own mistakes. I watched my mother go through hell, and I still went through hell myself. Sometimes your trauma is so great that you don't see inspiration in people who are inspiring. That's my, cockeye answer. But you'll get the professional answer from David.
Well, I don't know about a professional answer, but I mean, your question is a good one,
Very good.
but it's a lot of it's
Very-
multifaceted answers to that. I mean, we talked about the generational thing, right? People such as Darrell and myself, we have what's called a predisposition
Okay.
to becoming addicted people ourselves, simply because of genealogy, right? You know, his mother's mother, my father's father, my nephews, I have a lot of family members in recovery. So it's a genetic disposition to it, but there's also socioeconomics, availability,
Oh, absolutely.
trauma,
Trauma's
mental
big.
health. Those are all factors in who I become and what I turn to sort of alleviate all of those problems in my life.
Yeah. And it's this is off topic, but I made the connection in my mind when you mentioned trauma and socioeconomic and all of that. Anyone can become an addict.
That's
Like
right.
we have the predisposition and stuff, but say someone had a surgery and they needed painkillers,
Right.
your brain could be like, "Oh, we like this," and now you're an addict before you realize it too. Like I remember getting high when I worked at Dwayne Reed, getting high in the bathroom. If you're getting high at work, you're an addict because it's not that deep where you need. Yeah. So
And there are a lot of stories like that too.
Oh, absolutely.
I had a patient recently. When I say recently, in the last couple of years, he got into a terrible car accident, broke several bones, had to have reconstructive surgeries in several different places. He was prescribed pain medication. His family, there's no addiction in his family, but his father committed suicide when he was 11. And he carried that trauma
Yes.
throughout his entire life. When he got into this pain medication, and the doctors, unfortunately, and this is not a knock on the professions of medical profession, but a lot of doctors aren't really educated about addiction. And so they prescribe these medications, to alleviate pain. And then after several months of you being on that medication, they say, "Oh, that's it, no more.
no, and
You're
your
done."
body is like, no.
And
no,
now you're left with this person who is like, "What the hell? What am I gonna do?" Right? Like I'm jonesing. And so he decided that he would look for pills on the street to satisfy himself. And then when that didn't work, he turned to heroin.
Yep.
And he became one of the worst heroin addicts I've ever seen.
Wow.
One of the worst. And I don't even want to describe it, but he really went down.
Wow.
And now he's in recovery, and he's doing well. And as I say, it didn't necessarily have a genetic component to it, but it certainly had a traumatic or trauma component to it.
Yeah.
Because he still feels very, he feels guilty about his father. He still carries that around. He said, if I had done such and such and such, he wouldn't be dead. But we don't know that. We don't know that.
That makes me think of the evilness of addiction. How it's like addiction is an entity in and of itself. The devil. Because like the whole like his father committing suicide, like your brain will have you convinced that it was your fault that he committed suicide and that these drugs are going to make you feel better. It's just it's really weird. I'm like, if I apply it to myself, I convinced myself that like my family hated me and I hated them, and then I needed to get high to not think about it. But then when I would like come down, that's all I would think about. So I needed to get high again to not think about it. It's ridiculous.
Insidious.
Yes, insidious. It's ridiculous.
I want to say this too, because you were talking about not being addicted to drugs. We're all addicted
To something.
to something.
Don't get me preaching up here.
We're all addicted to something. Some of us use drugs. Some of us use food. Some of us use.
Yeah, I think yeah.
Some of us use shopping. Some of us use
Fragrances and food. That's me.
money. Some of us are workaholics. Some of us are gym
Bros.
Yeah.
Juice heads.
Juice
Oh my
heads.
God.
Me one day.
There's so many ways that
Oh, absolutely.
addiction can manifest itself in a human being. You know, why are we the most in debt, medicated, psychologically screwed up people, overweight?
Oh, Americans you're talking about.
Yes. why
Those Europeans.
Right.
Why is that the case here in the United States? The richest
know.
country in the world, but we are the most, in debt, overweight,
Yeah.
medicated country in the world.
I don't know.
Why
Good
is
question. I don't know.
that? Could addiction have something to do with that?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I'm just
Maybe.
asking. I'm not.
Because again, I'm thinking of just drug addiction, but you just mentioned that you can be addicted to so many other things. Okay, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Sex. That's another addiction for some people.
I'm celibate. Why are you laughing? I am. Yeah.
But you could be celibate and still addicted to sex. You could be addicted to porn.
Oh, I love porn. Hi, Mom.
Careful.
Yeah.
You could be addicted to porn, masturbation. All of those are things that people are addicted to heavily. Heavily.
I'm sorry.
He's laughing over there. What's
Oh,
going
Lord.
on?
Nothing. Wow.
He has a perverted brain.
No, I don't. No, I
You
don't.
have perversions.
This is
You
interesting.
need help.
Stop it. So,
Well, when I stopped using crack,
yeah.
I found out that I had a terrible sex addiction.
Yeah, they go hand in hand. I mean, again, I didn't have this conversation with you. I had a conversation with a friend of mine who's currently battling his substance of choice. And for some people, their MO was, to screw as many people as possible when they were high. And so when you give up the drug, your brain
Still predatory.
still associates
Predatory.
drugs with sex, and you gotta find a way to work to separate the two.
Yeah.
And the person I'm talking about is me, and that's part of the reason why I am celibate. And it's been, I've been clean. June 1st will be 2 years, almost 2 years that I haven't, did the nasty, because I'm still, for one thing, I don't want to. It's not. We're not going to get graphic, but it's not hard to have sex if that's what you want, if you are of a certain sexuality. But it's not where I am. I don't want to. And, my brain still, my addiction, because like, as you said earlier, you are always an addict. And sometimes my brain will try to make the connection, and I have to stop myself. Like if I'm thinking something or watching something, my brain will be like, well, imagine if you were high, how visually, stimulating this would be. And I'll be like, okay.
Lust becomes an unnatural desire.
Yeah. And then I'll be like, okay, we're done. And that's a lifelong battle. And that's one of the reasons to keep your fear of drugs. Because you will deal with your addiction for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. They will always try to pull you back in. That's just the reality of the situation.
I think that's why it's become a little bit of a fascination for me, too.
Yeah.
Because, one, already having this fear instilled
Yeah.
in me. And then, currently going through my early 20s, which is around the time, I don't know statistics around when addiction begins, but I would assume this is like the
Begin
age.
any age
but,
of life.
Like, this is like a big age, I'm sure.
Yeah.
My career started late.
However, my point being,
Go ahead.
I rather than, experimenting, in my 20s, because, you're in your 20s, you can get crazy, you can do whatever you want, you can try anything once. rather than wanting to do that, my fascination is learning about this disease.
Yeah.
You know, and I have like the perfect like bridge to bind that education. You know, which is why I'm so happy that I get to learn. Like there are moments where I'm sometimes like have very ignorant opinions, not opinions, but like ideas, I guess.
And that's okay.
And so I truly have to ask, like, can you educate me on this?
Yeah.
Because I don't understand. And so I wanted to mention this earlier too. So I'm glad that we got back around.
No, go ahead, because I want to bring up something that you I think you read or something, and I was like, Jessica, that is ridiculous. But go ahead.
Oh God, I don't know what you're talking about.
Remember the thing about you didn't want to go somewhere or buy something?
No, yeah, it was a really ignorant thing, and
Yes.
I don't even want to talk about it.
What was it? TikTok or something?
It was on Facebook.
It was
I
on
s-
Facebook.
Yeah, it was like public restrooms. Like if somebody had gone into a Walmart and like wiped their used
Yeah.
needle on the toilet paper.
Yeah, and she was like, she doesn't like public restrooms because addicts go in there and wipe their used needles on
I
the toilet
didn't
paper.
say because they all do. I said I saw that and it
You saw that,
scared
yeah.
me.
And I told her, I'm like, Jessica, that is ridiculous. I said an addict's focus is what they're focused on. They're not taking the time to think, let me go into this bathroom and wipe my needle on the toilet paper. Yeah.
But you know, there are people out like you know.
I mean, there are sick
bug
people in the
chasers.
world.
Are you you're familiar?
I'm familiar with bug chasers.
Yeah. However, anyway, I'm sorry. Okay.
No, don't be sorry. But you had a question
Yeah.
and you brought it up and we talked about it. I'm
But I
like,
think this is like, part of the ignorance, and I'm not calling it ignorant. I'm
I
just
admitted
saying
it. It's okay.
it's
not
part of the ignorance that people have about addiction.
it's part of the thinking that addicts are the lowest of the low. That's what it is.
Well, we're marginalized. That's society says, criminals, addicts, even people whose gender is or identity is different
Yeah.
are marginalized.
Yeah.
All of those people are marginalized.
I think one of the funny thing to me about addicts is people do have their views on addicts and think that they're the lowest of the low, but not when it comes to celebrities. It's really weird how Robert Downey Jr., Drew Barrymore, and we can go through a list of celebrities who are in recovery now, but like there will be people maybe who watch this podcast who will look at me, maybe not to my face because don't try me. But, behind my back might give me the side eye, but yet you love Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. It's really weird.
Yeah.
It makes no sense
Because
to
they're
me.
so strong and their platform, like how could they just they
it's-
just could do it all.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I always found that weird. Like,
It's very hypocritical.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just had to throw that out there.
Yeah, but back to what I was saying.
Yeah.
One of an eye-opening learning moment for me was when I was just like finding out about your history,
Yeah.
and I had not ignorantly but mostly like curiously asked, well, what was your drug of choice?
Oh,
And
yes.
you said it doesn't matter,
It doesn't matter.
and I was like, why?
because
Why not? Just tell me.
And I told you that people ask that question because they want to rank you. There's a hierarchy. So you have alcoholics, you have coke addicts, and then everything else is under that. So
I'm
you
not
have
familiar with
soon
like
as
the
you
totem
say-
pole.
you have heroin, and then you have like meth heads, and then But I mean, alcohol is at the top because it's just, even though alcoholics are some. How do I say this delicately?
Yeah, but alcohol is more socially acceptable.
True, but alcohol addiction, which we were just talking about, is, as you know, it's horrible.
It's probably the worst.
But to society, it's like, well, alcohol is here, then it's coke, and then everything else. And that's the only reason why people ask you, what were you addicted to? Trust me, it's the only reason, so they can categorize you of what level of addict or in their mind, you are. That's the only reason people ask you, what was your substance of choice?
Right.
Trust me, it's the only reason why.
Okay.
That's like that funny distinction people make, right? Back in the day when it was, do you smoke crack or
Yeah.
do you smoke cocaine?
Like, does it matter? I'm an
It's
addict.
the same thing, right?
No,
It
they're
is
not.
the same thing.
Okay.
Oh, they
There's
are?
no difference.
Oh,
My sponsor even
Stand
used to
corrected.
tell the story about that.
yeah.
Shout out, Ed. He used to
And we know you're
say,
watching it.
he used to say, I'm not a crackhead.
Yeah.
I smoke cocaine.
Oh my God.
He's classy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a distinguished gentleman.
I'm a distinguished addict.
Yeah.
I kill myself with class. So
It's the
stupid.
best way to do it.
Yeah.
But I'm saying this is all part of the public perception, and people have these ideas, or, when back in the day when alcohol, wasn't as, or alcoholism wasn't as widely accepted, people had this idea when you say I'm an alcoholic, they picture some bum on the Bowery
Yeah.
stumbling around with a wine bottle in his hand. But no, alcoholics live next door.
Alcoholics
They-
again.
they-
Alcoholics
they're
next door.
doctors,
You just made an
they're
appointment with an
professors,
alcoholic. Exactly.
They're psychiatrists. They're
Exactly.
teachers.
Future
they're-
school counselors.
Correct.
My alcohol wasn't my substance, but yeah.
I'm really grateful for this, newfound education
Yeah.
that I continue to learn every day, because I'm sure there's still so much more that I don't know.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Things that you haven't told me, but it's very fascinating to me because my I'll try not to get emotional. My grandfather was a heroin addict, and
Yes.
when he and my grandmother were together, they had two children, my mom and my aunt, and it was just them two, and he was addicted to drugs their entire lives.
Yeah.
While he was around, and it amazes me how, of the two people coming from a parent who was addicted to drugs, know nothing about addiction. And I think it's just sometimes it's crazy to me that I have to tell my mom, like, this is the kind of person your father was,
Yeah.
and you have no idea.
Maybe that's good. Maybe. Well, what am I trying to say?
I feel like people who don't understand, or at least don't care to educate themselves on addiction, I just feel like it's like a really careless thing. Like I don't remember.
Well, I think what I was trying to say is when I said I think it's good. Maybe he was such a good father. If you can be that good of a father while being a heroin addict, that she just like my little brother. Again, I spoke about it on a previous episode. He just. When I wanted him to have the feelings that I had for my mother, he just never had them. And I think he just saw her differently. He saw the situation differently. Maybe it was his age. And I'm grateful he did. But go ahead, because I cut you off. What were you about to say?
No, so I think it's hard for people who don't understand addiction to be patient with addicts.
As an addict, I can say that patience helps, but people have the right, because no one owes you anything.
Right.
And like, you don't owe anyone anything. And patience is nice, but people have the right to separate themselves.
Of course.
Like, they have the right to say, I love you, but I don't want to deal with it. Now, again, I was blessed to have a family who never turned me away. I sat in any meetings and people say, I had to work back to get my family. I had to work back to get my friends. I can't identify with that. So when they say it, I just shut up. I just stay quiet, rather.
I'd
Yeah.
like to say something here. Like, I hear what you're saying, and I agree. I mean, there should be some, education about it
Yeah.
all. But when you talk about people who are living with addicts or people who have addicted people in their family, they don't see the addiction. That's not what they see. What they see is the lying, is the stealing, is the irresponsibility, the
poor
immaturity,
decisions.
the bad
Anger.
decisions, the anger, the bad behavior. That's what they see.
And if they see you, it's the old you before the addiction.
And you could say, well, they did this because of their that's not what they
Yeah.
respond to or react to. What they react to is the bad behavior.
Got it.
Right?
That's so right. That's so brilliant. Thank God. No, you're right. I'm just thinking of
Your mom was an addict.
Yeah.
You saw her as someone who
speak.
I don't know this, but I'm just saying, maybe you saw her as someone who was irresponsible, who wasn't loving, who didn't care about you. She, neglected you and something. That's what you
I thought
saw.
that in adulthood, not in childhood. But again, I carried it with me, and then in adulthood, I was like, "You didn't really care. You did." It's
But it wasn't that she didn't care.
no, it's not.
She
it's
just
not.
was more, she was caught in a cycle that she just couldn't get
She
out
was
of.
sick. Yes.
Right, she was sick.
Yes.
And that's the part that people don't quite
Because they don't understand that it's truly an illness. People look at addicts as just, again, the lowest of the low. You're weak.
Well,
you're
they also
stupid.
look at us and say, "Why? It's a choice."
Yeah.
It's
Which
a
is
choice.
It's not a choice. You did choose to pick up. You chose to get high. You didn't choose to be an addict. It's like the whole, I'm going high. This may be a leap, but the whole gay thing. I didn't choose to be gay. I choose whether or not I have sex, but I didn't choose to be gay. But see, yeah, we'll stop that conversation. But yeah, it's just people are just so damn ignorant. Yeah. But no, you didn't choose to be an addict. But you chose to get high. But you didn't choose for your brain and your body to react the way that it did, over time.
I know you also had taught me about certain types of dependencies depending on the drug.
I learned that from him, from David Foster. Codependency. I remember you said, oh my God, because I said this to you not too long ago. When you react to how other people feel, like if someone's upset, now you're upset. That's codependency. Like when you let other people's emotions control your emotions. It's
I
not
do that.
Yeah,
David,
it's
I
not
do that.
just about codependency. It's not just about needing to be around someone and needing to. Oh, it's there are other types of
Codependency
codependency.
is that's a very broad subject.
Yes.
Very broad.
Yes.
Because you can get enmeshed with people and become, as you say, respond to their reaction, their emotions. Their emotions become, you want to fix the other individual.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Oh my God.
And generally, people who are addicted run into people or connect with people who are very codependent.
You
Very
and me, babe.
codependent.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, I
Because
A
they
lot
want to
of-
fix, manage, and control that other person. I can fix him.
Well,
I can make him better.
Oh my God.
I don't
No, I don't think
exactly
that's-
steer my my motives in that direction of like wanting to control or
No.
I think
Maybe
or
maybe
not
I'm
always
not. Maybe
fixed.
it's not about control, but it's certainly about I can fix this person. I can make this person better.
I think in moments of codependency
Yeah.
on emotion, my goal is let's just stop feeling like this so I can stop feeling like this.
Right. That's
And
codependency.
it's my
yes.
fault. It's my fault, you know?
Yes.
Like you are allowed to feel the way that you feel,
And it's not my responsibility.
right?
I've said. Oh my God.
You don't understand how much I've learned from this guy. But no, I live and lead a lot of my life with advice that I've learned from Darrell,
Oh, stop it.
which is secondhand from
Right. From what is it? 6 Degrees of David Foster. Yes.
like
Oh
a
boy,
trifecta.
stop it.
No, but let's not act like it's not a two-way street. Like I learned from you as well. Like
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you have your education, you're a genius, and you're on the road there, and here I am, damaged.
Stop.
But like, I have my own. I don't have a therapist right now. But I have Darrell, and it's like,
Oh my God.
and no, I
Far
mean,
from a
it's-
therapist.
But I'm so like, I haven't had this type of guidance in my life in so long. I learned so much in less than 2 years.
But we learn together. Because
Yeah.
I mean, again, you know me. I'm a mess, and she calls me out on my stuff, and
which I only ever learned to do because of the way.
because
he
I
was
said
me.
call me out on my
Yeah.
stuff. Like yeah.
But I've never been I've said this in previous episodes too. Like I've never been confrontational. I don't talk about my feelings. I don't talk to people about the way I feel about them because I'm scared. Because I don't want to hurt their feelings. 2, want them to be mad at me.
Which
3,
annoys
maybe
the
hit
hell out
me.
of me.
I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know. I just I don't like fighting. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Only with Josh, but that's it.
Oh.
And sometimes they're But yeah.
Well, we all
Yeah.
are broken and flawed in some way.
In some way,
Yeah.
yes.
And
In
we
some
need
way, shape, or
to-
form. That's very
and
true.
we need to, accept the fact that we are broken and flawed in some way.
And I think I definitely have accepted that I am, and I have intentions.
Yeah.
I would like to not be broken. I mean, unless like the whole thing is that you will always be broken, but like you
I don't even
learn
know
how
if
to-
broken is a good word. I don't know if I
That
like
might be a
that
bit
word.
severe. We all
Yeah.
just need work. And
Yeah.
that's everyone. No one has their SHIT all the way together. No one.
No, but I
Yeah.
I want to fix me. Like that's like my goal.
That's
know?
good.
I just want to be better.
to reach our full potential.
Schmagma. What was it called? Shmish.
Shampsha.
Shamsha. Maybe that'll be the title of this
Hoorah.
episode.
Oh boy.
Shamsha. Well, with that, this episode has. I didn't cry. It's wonderful.
Tap that.
You
Um,
didn't cry?
No, I mean my left eye got the tiniest bit tearing in
His
the
eyes
corner.
were sweating.
Oh my god.
Tap that thing.
But this has been good.
Shamsha,
Yeah.
Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration.
Got it.
Shamsha.
Sorry,
No, you're fine. You're fine. So I mean,
Couldn't
do we have
remember.
any parting words?
just like I'm really grateful that you guys gave me this opportunity to come
course.
on and speak.
Yes.
Plug my private practice a little
Yes.
bit.
Make sure
and-
you say it into the
Shout out.
camera so Darlin Marlin can put it in the caption.
Okay, so Breath of Life Counseling Services. We're in Somerset, New Jersey, and Highland Park. So if anyone is in need of counseling services, please look us up.
Yes.
And I'll give RCA a little shout out. RCA,
Yes.
Recovery Centers of America,
South Amboy, New
in
Jersey.
South Amboy, New Jersey.
You can see the highway from his office. I'm like literally, I can picture it. Yeah. You can. Jessica, do you have anything to say?
Follow me on Instagram.
On Instagram.
I can't.
Marlon's gonna put. It's gonna go
Yes, he's gonna put your socials
everything
up there.
there. But I really liked today's episode.
Yeah.
I'm satisfied with our conversation.
Yeah.
I'm glad I learned even more than I didn't think that I would. But you
Yeah.
know, there's always room to learn.
Yes,
All
And
the time.
God is good.
God is
All
good.
the time.
All the time. Well, I don't know, something came over me, like I said, and I was like, you know what? We need to have David on the show. And I'm happy that you agreed, because you didn't have to, you know. Back to the not owing anybody anything.
First real guest.
Yes.
Too. Growth.
Yes. So, an accomplished guest.
And maybe this will spur other people to.
Well, my other best friend wants to come on soon.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe all three of us should be on this side.
Oh my God.
She's got a whole lot to talk about.
Yes. But I want to thank you again. You played a part in saving my life. You really did. And I truly do quote you often. I talk about you a lot.
Oh boy.
No, I really do.
Is that why my ears are always ringing?
No, I really do, and I do. And I'm just appreciative of what you've done for me, and I wouldn't be sitting here again with this podcast with my best friend, a semester away from my bachelor's degree. Less than a week away, I believe. I don't want to pick up my phone from 2 years clean. Like you played a part in all of this. So I thank you for
You played
that.
a big part in it too.
Listen, everyone at this table knows I'm obsessed with myself, so I don't want to sit here and talk about, you know, I did put in hard work, and I believed in
correct.
myself. No, I did, and I'm sitting here in large part, of course, because Darrell, you know, chose to put himself on the correct path. But no, thank you for being here. Thank you for finding the courage within yourself to be the person you are for people like me.
Thank you. Appreciate
You're
that.
welcome. Yeah, and I'm happy my mother gets to see you.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I really, really, really am. Actually, everybody in my family, but particularly my mother gets to see
Who David Foster is.
gets to see your face. Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
so is everybody getting a face to the name?
Yeah.
Oh wow, big reveal. We should have
Yes.
like a curtain and
You're so
everything.
stupid.
Oh boy.
But this has been a very good episode. This has been this is like our first like guest. I don't know how we're gonna follow this up next week. We'll
Next
try.
episode, we actually
I'm
have Harry
sure-
Styles coming in.
I'm sure you'll figure it out.
Yes, we'll have Mariah Carey coming in.
Oh boy.
No, but this has been a good episode. So yeah, I thank everyone for watching. Yeah, we look forward to speaking to you guys more. And yeah, this has been Permission Granted. Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.